These are sensor readings for the constant cloud cover. I'll update you on the Middle East war. Iran has attacked the UAE several times in the past 48 hours. The U.S. Institute for the Study of War stated this seems to be Iran's attempt to isolate the UAE from other Gulf countries. The UAE Ministry of Defense said its air defense intercepted Iranian missiles and drones on May 5th. So far, there have been no confirmed reports that Iranian missiles or drones have actually struck targets within the UAE. Also, on May 4th, Iran carried out a total of 4 attacks on the UAE, including a drone attack targeting the Fujairah oil industrial area, which actually caused some damage. The Institute for the Study of War in the United States stated that Iran's focus on attacking only the UAE rather than multiple Gulf countries reflects a strategic intention to exploit divisions among Gulf states, isolate the UAE, and deepen regional discord. The Institute for the Study of War in the U.S. said Iran's attacks on the UAE aim to divide the UAE from the U.S. and Israel, responding to the UAE's efforts to boost ties with those countries. Iranian state media said the recent attacks happened because the UAE is growing closer to the United States and Israel. An Iranian regime analyst said on May 4 that Iran attacked the UAE due to its unprecedented hostility, including cooperation with the U.S. and Israel in security and military areas. A media outlet linked to Ali Shamkhani, former secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, reported that Israel gave air defense systems to the UAE, suggesting the UAE is aligning more with the US and Israel. Media outlets linked to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard also claimed on May 4 that the UAE had become a puppet of Israel. At the same time, Iran is believed to be warning other Gulf countries that they could be targeted if they increase cooperation with the United States and Israel. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth stated in a briefing that attacks on the Strait of Hormuz and the UAE don't violate the U.S.-Iran ceasefire, sparking more controversy. And Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Kane, recently assessed that the 9 attacks and 2 ship seizures carried out by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz do not yet reach the level that would require resuming large-scale combat operations. As a result, trust in the United States is gradually decreasing. Iran's recent attack on the UAE also appears to be a response to the U.S. efforts to restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. On May 3rd, President Trump announced the launch of Operation Project Freedom, aimed at helping commercial vessels safely pass through the Strait of Hormuz and weakening Iran's control over the area. Right after the announcement, Iran attacked UAE-linked vessels in UAE territory, seen as a move to show control over the waters and discourage other ships from passing through the strait. The UAE is directly interested in restoring maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, Iran's attack on the UAE is also seen as an attempt to impose costs on a key regional partner of the United States that benefits from Project Freedom, while at the same time demonstrating that Iran is capable of responding sufficiently to U.S. efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, it could be a separate issue altogether. President Trump announced Operation Project Freedom will be temporarily suspended starting May 6, so the U.S. is expected to stop military action in the Strait of Hormuz. Because the Strait of Hormuz blockade continues, the energy crisis will likely persist. Reports indicate Iran is continuing to develop and implement a new mechanism to assert sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. According to this mechanism, ships wishing to pass through the Strait of Hormuz will receive an email specifying the transit regulations, and the ships must comply with certain rules to obtain passage permission. This appears to be a kind of transit fee. This indicates Iran is gradually organizing how it charges transit fees for the Strait of Hormuz. Several Iranian officials still express intentions for long-term control over the Strait of Hormuz, while United States Central Command maintains a counter-blockade there. Since the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports began, the military has turned back 51 ships. Meanwhile, Hezbollah in southern Lebanon continued attacking the Israeli military. Hezbollah carried out a total of 20 attacks targeting the Israeli military in southern Lebanon over a 24-hour period from May 4th to May 5th. This is the most attacks in a 24-hour period since the April 16th ceasefire began. Hezbollah reportedly used a variety of weapons in these attacks, including mortars, rockets, FPV drones, fixed-wing drones, and anti-tank guided missiles. Hezbollah also stated that on May 5th alone, they carried out 6 FPV drone attacks targeting Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, Iran has been pressuring pro-Iranian militias in Iraq to halt their military activities. The Institute for the Study of War said this is likely because Iran wants to avoid U.S. financial pressure on Iraq from also impacting Iran. On May 5th, the commander of the Quds Force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard met with pro-Iranian militias in Baghdad, where he reportedly warned of real dangers and discussed the need for alternative plans. The United States has called for dismantling pro-Iranian militias since early 2025 because these groups in Iraq follow Iran's orders more than Iraq's. Iran's influence in Iraq was gradually increasing. However, the United States put pressure on Iraq to stop this, and the influence of the pro-Iranian militias began to be diminished. On April 22, US and Iraqi officials said the US Treasury temporarily halted transferring Iraq's oil export payments via the Federal Reserve over militia activity concerns. According to officials, the United States blocked the first transfer to the Central Bank of Iraq at the end of February 2026, right after the outbreak of the war, and it was also reported that they recently stopped a cash shipment worth about $500 million. Since 2003, the Central Bank of Iraq has handled dollars and major oil export revenues via an account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, with oil revenues making up about 90% of Iraq's national income. Because Iran uses Iraq's economy to bypass sanctions and support the axis of resistance, these US actions are also significantly affecting Iran, which is already under economic pressure. As a result, it seems that Iran is asking pro-Iranian militias to refrain from attacks. If there are any significant updates, I will make a video and upload it. This concludes the video. Thank you.
Ja.